Hi there, I'm Michael Bovee with Consumer Recovery Network. Thanks for tuning into our YouTube channel, DebtBytes. Today I'm going to talk about something that I cover extensively over the years on the website with customers and stuff you have to care about when it comes to having not paid your debt. Today I'm talking about charge-off. What is it? Why should you care? Depending on your goals, maybe you shouldn't. Okay, so first of all, charge-off is an accounting term. It's something that banks have to do. When your debt goes unpaid, they take it as a loss. They account for it on their books. They typically update banks, credit card banks, on a quarterly basis. So when given guidance by their provincial regulators or following GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, typically a bank can't wait any longer than 180 days, so 6 months, of you not paying them before they have to account for the loss of this, let's say, $5,000 credit card account. Up until that point, and of course while you were paying them, it's an asset. They show it on their books as an asset. It's a benefit. It's a plus. As soon as you stop paying and they must take the charge off, it becomes a minus, right? So that kind of information is an aggregate, the amounts of accounts, balances, add them all up each quarter. They have to share that information with Wall Street, with their shareholders. In other words, it's bad news. The reason why you might find charge-off to happen at 6 months, and it's typically when it's reported as charged off on your credit report, if you haven't paid for that many months in a row, is because of the bad news nature. They wait as long as they possibly can to report this information as an aggregate because it could affect their share price and even solvency, right? I mean, if you take it to an extreme. So it's something you get to be concerned about beyond the accounting notion of it, because it's something that guides your creditor's behavior, okay? And it appears on your credit report. In fact, it's kind of the worst derogatory that applies to a credit card debt. You went 30, 60, 90, 120, 150 days late, and then boom, charge off, right? So it's as bad as it's going to get, other than, say, getting sued and getting a judgment on the public record section of your credit report for that same debt, right? So why would you want to avoid it? Well, and do you have opportunities actually to avoid it? And yes. So leading up to the charge-off point is when your bank, let's pick on somebody, let's say Chase, okay? So Chase Bank, you haven't paid them in 2 months. You're pretty much getting approached from Chase with any collection calls. They're more like customer service oriented, trying to turn things around, offer you hardship plans, which I talk about on the channel here. Look that up. Whether that's affordable or correct for you to do. Or, they want to find out what they can do to turn the situation around and get you back and keep you as an asset, okay? And it's very friendly, usually. Once you pass over, for a lot of banks, the 90-day mark, you're 90 days late on your credit, and things flip over to their recovery department. So statistically, once you've not paid for several months, you start to you look more like a statistic to them and somebody that is more likely not to pay ever again. So they treat you a little differently, and now it becomes a recovery effort. Before it was, okay, let's keep this as an asset. Now, after say 90 days, it's more about, oh my gosh, let's try not to have to write off as much as we can avoid. And so you can start to have discussions with banks, not all banks, but most of the majors, that starts to look to reduce what you owe, your overall balance. Now, that sometimes happens at 90 days. And the reductions aren't that great. But guess what? As you buck up against that 180-day timeline, that charge-off event, your reductions start to improve. Chase might not be the best example right now because the current trend with them is I usually target them at about 40% when you're settling directly with Chase. I've seen some recent things where they just haven't caved under 50% a day before charge-off. But other banks, and Chase probably will float back. There's an ebb and flow to bank policies. They don't move on a dime. They change over time, though. So pay attention to different videos on this channel where we directly talk about how to settle with your bank. Do a search for their name, or on our website. But typically, they're looking to settle with you for the best savings so that so they can at least get something before that charge-off event. So they're motivated to negotiate something as a lower payoff with you. And you're motivated, if you can afford it, because you can avoid a charge-off from even appearing on your credit report sometimes, not all the time. So there's a benefit there, and it's when you, getting up to close to that charge-off event for the creditor, is when you're going to get the best savings. Now, do you care if an account charges off? On your credit, if it went 150 days, the damage is done. How much more does a charge-off really matter to you on your credit report? Not so much, okay? So it's not really that big a deal, especially if you have multiple accounts that you stop paying, okay? So if you have just one account and you can avoid the charge-off and it's the only negative that's going to appear on your credit report, fine, work hard to try and avoid it. But if you've got 2 accounts or more that have not been paid, look, your credit's hammered, okay? It's already been hit really, really hard. So trying to avoid the charge-off and commit to some kind of settlement that you can't afford, it's not necessarily in your best interest. So what happens after a charge-off? Well, you care about that too, because banks tend to use their internal charge-off policies to coincide with when they place your account out with collection or when they sell your debt off. It's the first inclination that they'll have at pooling up unpaid debts and selling it off to a debt buyer, which is a multi-billion-dollar market in the US for credit cards and other debts for that matter. And or they're going to send it off to a debt collector. Now, sending your account off to a debt collector is the most frequent thing that's going to happen right after charge-off, okay? So going back to Chase, really common right now. Chase hasn't sold debt for a couple of years. They'll get back to it, but right now you can expect only to deal with collection agencies working on Chase debt, right? Chase still owns it. Their policies and procedures and or how low they'll go and what they'll accept for a settlement is going to be met to a large part by the actions of the collection agency, right? So here, the charge-off is already done, the damage to your credit report is done. What you want to do is look to save as much as you can, typically, when settling post-charge-off. So dealing with the debt collector, their goals are to get paid. They're a contingency debt collector usually in this situation, so they only get paid if they get you to pay. So you guys actually have some of the same goals. You want to save money and resolve a debt. They want to get paid and help you resolve a debt. It's just a matter of finding the amount that you can afford, okay? Once you settle with the debt collector or with the bank after they charge it off, it will update to your credit report to show that it's resolved, that it's a zero balance owed. Doesn't matter if you paid it in full, doesn't matter if you settled for a penny. It's updated to show zero balance owed and resolved. The charge-off is going to stay, so keep that in mind, but it's not necessarily going to prevent you from reaching, future credit goals, future financing goals, okay? It's just part of the territory for having fallen behind. One of the attributes, because charge-off is kind of a catchphrase, right? You read on the internet all kinds of different details about it. Collectors have picked up on that, and I've noticed in the last few years they start to use that as some kind of leverage, right? They say, like inside of the bank, Wells Fargo especially, is like, we're going to charge this account off. Well, we know, no kidding, right? Using it as some kind of cudgel or threat. That, oh, well, you want to try and resolve this before we charge it off, and then you go out and you do this research about charge-off, and oh my gosh, I got to avoid that. Not really. Don't commit to something just because you feel like there's some kind of line in the calendar that you don't want to step over because of all the negative attributes. Yes, like I said, internal bank policy will kick in. One of 3 things is going to happen after your account charges off. This is every time, all the time. There is no exception. Of course, I'm still referring to credit card debts here. Your bank is either going to drop your account into the collection bucket, where they're just an assignee contingency debt collector, like I mentioned. They're going to sell the debt off to a debt buyer, somebody who purchases legal rights to collect your debt at a discount. And or they're going to send your account to an attorney. And sometimes that attorney is authorized to sue you in order to collect. Those are the 3 buckets. So if there's any reason why you want to avoid the charge-off event and or feel like that's a line in the sand you don't want to cross, it's because your bank that you're dealing with has a history, a current history, of suing. That's what you can do and avoid having to even think about, usually anyway, when negotiating a settlement right before charge-off or immediately after. That's a preventative measure, if you will. But again, it is what it is. Affordable is affordable. You can either pull the money together to offer a lump sum settlement, or you can engage in some kind of repayment. And another thing, actually pretty significant about charge-off. When your bank charges off a debt, or put it this way, before your bank charges off that debt, and they engage in a settlement with you, right? $5,000 balance, and they settle for, let's say, $1,500, okay? It's a really good settlement, by the way. you don't have it, you need to stretch it out over time. You can come up with $500 a month for 3 months. That's the only way you're going to be able to take advantage of the deal. Guess what? Banks do that, right? Chase, Citibank, all these guys. They'll do it for 90 days. Why? Because they can't do it any longer on pre-charge-off accounts. The provincial regulators that they have, like the Comptroller of the Currency, tells them that if you're going to engage in a pre-charge-off settlement, you must get the full amount of that agreement or that payment within a 94-day period, so call it 3 months. But after that, there is no regulation for that, right? So you might not be able to get more than 90-day terms on a settlement or a repayment plan with your bank pre-charge-off, but if your bank has a recovery department where they keep your account post-charge-off, say for a month or two before they subject it to one of those 3 buckets that I mentioned, then there are times where you can actually get your payment plan extended. I've seen 12 months, right? Or when you're dealing with a debt collector on post-charge-off debts, you're able to get these other payment arrangements. I'm not a fan of payment arrangements, and I'll put that out there because life happens. Life happens to the point where you're on my channel watching this video, right? So that's proof enough. But let's say you agree to a $1,500 settlement and you're making $250 payments, so 6 payments, and you make the 4th one, but you can't make the 5th one. You lose the benefit of the deal, usually, right? Be very careful in how you arrange any payments. Something might sound affordable and you want to take advantage of it, but there are times where it's just better to let it charge off because suddenly you have more options and maybe even more affordable options, let alone the longer payment terms. See you on the next video.